niggas them ball. I think you go ever need that all. I join your Gina, get under. Taking it a break, at me, I know the rush. Baby, if you want me, catch a rebel, my mister would draw me. Yeah.
Show me a jigger, let me see. And let me see the woman that is with. Put a couple $1,000 on your wrist. What's on your wrist? Mama, they can't touch you. I ain't never see this kind, babe. We do some kind things, make me feel some kind way. You know I'm not just trying to get laid, cause I know some kind chicks do it for the right pay. Baby, make I fire you with my machine gun. 16 rounds, I be King Kong. Girlie, make I sample you my brand new song. Baby, love.
Oh girl, I wanna be with you, but you know they got enough time for me. I wanna live with you, yeah. I can't see reason why I can't let go. Girl, you never know, say you come pass up. Man, them so far to find your love. Girl, you never know, say you come pass up. Man, them so far to find your love. Girl, you never know, you come pass up. Man, them so far to find your love. Girl, you never know, say you come pass up. Man, them so far to find your love.
Color your broken, no good this loco. Body they throw me like coconut. Body they rising right on no. I say color your broken, no good this loco. Girlie they bossy my pololo. Can make a salute your commando. Girl if you balance Diego, I do you paper. No go do me Diego, my Maradona. Girl if I lap your sueto, I'm a farisa. Girl your back keep it connected, and I can follow your cresco.
Okay, good.
That was the height of the song. That tunde.
Yeah.
All right.
That was really awesome. Welcome everyone, and good to have you all here with us today. So I am Annie Jademi, and my co-host facilitators today, I have Chichi and also Florence. So can you introduce yourselves while I pull up the slides?
Hello, Chichi Apia here. Glad to be here and glad to be co-facilitating today.
So we have one more person.
I hope you can see me. Hi, my name is Florence Olumodimo, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Awesome, cool. So this is Agile Disciples, and we are all here today to, this is our April event. We're here to talk about how to ace your next Agile interview, tips to stand out. And we also have a special guest that will be joining us in an hour. Her name is Masha. We'll introduce her when it's time for her to come on board. And she's a HR person that will also be giving us some tips on what to really look out for, what recruiters are looking out for when they are interviewing someone. Okay, so our vision as Agile Disciples is to empower and develop our communities. So we are a nonprofit organization that is here to just help. We are basically giving back to people all the skills and experience we have acquired down the road. We're just giving it back to people. And our mission is to create knowledge, awareness, and also empowerment in our communities through coaching and skills development to close that opportunity divide that we have also found out. So these are all the coaches in Agile Disciples. 3 of us are here today facilitating this. Along with that, we have Divine Oshideko, we have Temi Tokbe Obi, we have Godwin, we have Femi, and we have Adam. So these are all the coaches that make up the Agile Disciples. And we also have some mentors. We have Coach Anu Gopal, we have Coach Bob, we also have Coach Femi, and also Coach Kemi. So all these are mentors that come to help us. So while we are pouring out to people, they're also pouring out into us. And this is the table of contents that we will go through today. So we will be starting with an icebreaker and then some conversations after that. And we'll talk about what to do before your interviews, value proposition, ways that you can stand out. And then after your interviews, and we'll have Masha come in to speak, and we'll wrap it up with some Q&A. Okay, so I'll pause here and give the floor to Chichi.
Okay. All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
And Anna, you've stopped sharing, correct?
Yes, I've stopped sharing.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. So this is an icebreaker and the expectation. Can you all see my screen, please? Let me know, thumbs up or say yes. Let's hear
Yes, you
voices.
see your screen.
All right, thank you. Slideshow, okay, no need for that. But here, we're going to start with this icebreaker. And the goal of this is for us to see what an interview is, what a worst interview is like. Then we'll have a conversation about the video, what you learned, if this has happened to you ever, and just share your what your thoughts are, right? So I'm going to go ahead and play it right away. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, we see your screen. But we don't hear any
Okay.
sound.
You don't hear sound. Okay, one moment then. Want to make sure.
Wow. T-shirt and jeans don't cut it for professional attire.
Can you hear?
Yes, we hear it well.
No. So what about Matt? Wow, he's getting married? I can't believe it. Yeah. Oh, that's me. To reach you now, how can I help you?
Welcome to your house. Can I help you?
Yeah, I got a job interview at 9 a.m.
Do you know who you're interviewing with?
No, I don't know. I thought that y'all would have that information. I don't know. Some kind of analyst position or something.
Okay, I'll try to find out for you, Mrs.
Smith. Billie Jean Smith.
Okay, Miss Smith. Please have a seat.
Please come in, Miss Smith.
Thanks.
I thought we might sit over here if you don't mind.
Oh, okay, sure.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Miss Smith, did you happen to bring a resume with you?
Oh, yes.
Good.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Billie Jean, why don't we start out by telling me something about yourself?
Well, I was born and raised in Alabama. I'm married. Still live in Alabama. I have a dog. It's a Yorkie. He is the best dog ever. I'm a libertarian because I like to stay in the middle of the road. And that's about it.
Interesting. Okay, well, so you're interested in working for Dewey, Chatham, and Howe.
Yes.
What do you know about us?
Well, I saw y'all on monster.com, and my boss right now is an idiot. I hate where I work right now. They can't do anything right. They got all ticked off because they had a beer at work. They're prudes.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you, oh, never mind. Tell me about your skills and qualifications for this job.
I've put it all on my resume, so we don't even have to talk about that. You can just read it on my resume. There, I've done a lot.
Well, now this job requires a lot of computer programming. What's your background in this area?
I'm not very good at C++, and I'm not good at all at Java. I'm not good at that at all. But I can do enough to get by here.
Well, this job also requires a lot of teamwork with your coworkers. Tell me about a time when you had to work with a team and how you accomplished your objective.
Like a real life example?
That would be preferable.
This one time in my class, we got our professor split us up and put us in a group. We had to work on a problem, like a math problem. It was about mass transit.
And what happened?
Um, I don't remember. We did the problem.
And what was the problem?
It's been a long time. It was a couple of years ago.
Okay, I think we're about done here. Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask before we conclude?
Yeah, how much are you going to pay me? How much the salary here?
Well, we really are concerned with finding the best candidate. The money will be competitive.
Do y'all have like a 401k, all that kind of stuff?
Oh, yes, yes.
Good. Well, when do I start?
Well, we do have several more interviews to do. We'll be in touch.
You've got my number. You know how to get in touch with me, and I'll be waiting on your call.
You do that.
All right. I can't wait to hear from you guys. It's been so good. I really enjoyed this interview. I can't wait to hear from you.
It's been nice talking with you, too.
Okay. You have a good day. You know my number.
Okay. So, who has a green like me on your face?
That interview was horrible.
Like, I couldn't put up with it. It made me green and laugh all day, all through. But Shaquana, why did you say it's horrible? What stood out? Horrible.
I mean, I was watching her, like her mannerisms the entire time, like her body language, the way she was walking and kind of moving her hands, slapping the paper, her attire, that even when she sat down, there was this mannequin with like appropriate interview attire on, and she didn't match that. And she wasn't professional at all. It was, I think even when she went in the interview, she kind of put her foot in the chair, and I was like, you're not at home, you're at an interview. Like, she was too relaxed and not professional enough.
Yep. Samuel?
I'd say she wasn't ready for the interview right from the front desk. She should have known where she was going to within the organization. Second of all, etiquette was poor. That wasn't our office, and the first thing she did was to sit down. And it's really embarrassing when you're asked to get up after sitting down and you're placed in a different position. So she should have waited for her to be directed on the best place to be seated. And overall, professionalism was really bad. Mannerism as well was bad as well. So she wasn't prepared. She's a bad candidate, and she just felt nonchalant.
All right. Well, thanks for those observations. Yeah, someone said she wore sleepers. I didn't notice she wore sleepers, did she? Yeah, in the chat. Okay. She was chewing gum all through. Yeah. So interview etiquette was not observed at all. So there's a lot we can get from this interview. Some are very obvious. She asked about her pay. Yes, Yemi, she asked about her pay. You know, like it was the only thing on her mind. Right? What else? I'm seeing here, Lola, the interviewee didn't take it serious. Too casual in her communication. Did not look professional. I would wear a sweater or jacket and proper shoes. Exactly. Same here. She was too lackadaisical. Did you notice? She did not even know her interviewer, right? That's a sign, right? You don't know your interviewer. You're going for an interview physically or even virtually. You should be able to know your interviewer, research your interviewer, know something about that person that's talking to you, right? Did she come in with a story? A question was asked about a scenario-based question. What was her response to that? Or how was her response? Lackluster. Can I respond in chat, guys? Can you talk to me? I don't look at the chat. Let's unmute yourselves and let's talk. I don't want to be talking to the chat. So I'm talking to you in person, in voice, please.
She was not prepared at all. Like she started with it's like she had an idea in mind and she's like, oh, I forgot, that was so long ago. So I guess she was trying to like wing it, but it did not work in her favor because she couldn't properly, produce an answer for the interviewer.
All right. Lola, meantime, you want to say something?
Sorry. Well, she asked if she needed to give a real life scenario. I'm like, what? They're asking you a question and you're asking, do you want a real life scenario? I mean, why are you there? They hired you because of they're interviewing, or they picked you to interview because of your experience. So of course, they're looking for a real life scenario.
And then she gave university or college experience for that. So it's like, it was amazing. But thanks, Lola. Thanks, Shaquana. Thanks everyone that contributed. Chats here. Thank you very much. Lola, it's good to hear your voice again. I'll tell you, a long time. Okay, all right. So now let's move on. We now know what a bad interview looks like, but let's go in and see what it takes to really ace your interview. What's needed from you? And guys, please, this is not us talking. This is not three of us talking here. This is us having a conversation. So let's kind of, chime in, stop us any way you want to, and let's make it fun. All right, so Annie, did you want to go ahead?
Yes, let me share my screen. So I'm going to talk about what to do before your interview. And some of this will address the issue that we saw in this video. The first thing we saw was she walked into the building, she wasn't ready. They asked her, why are you here? And she was like, I'm here for an interview with who? Someone. And she was just very clueless. Now, when you're scheduled for an interview, they call you and they tell you that you're going to have an interview. The first thing you want to do is to research the organization. You have to know everything about the organization you're going into, things like their mission statements and their values. Go online. Every company has reviews online that people say about them. What are their products? What are their services? Because one very popular question they will ask you is, what do you know about us? So you always want to have something to say about that organization. Why do you want to work for us? You want to say something around what people are saying positively about them, because that is why you're there, right? Research the job description. Every job that you're going into should have some description. Make sure that you can answer at least 80% of all the things in the job description. Whatever you don't know, go online and try to get information around it, because when you're scheduled for an interview, one thing is your resume has made it. So they want to be sure that you can do what is in the job description. So always research it, go through all the job description and come up with question yourself and have answers for each one of those bullet points on the job description, and then research your interviewers. You can go on LinkedIn, search for them, know their history. What kind of job titles do they have? What have they done in the past? It's very, very important for you to do this, because you're going into a place facing people you've never met before. You want to know what are their strengths, and you want to use that for your own advantage. You want to know where they are coming from so that you know how to meet them. And that will really help you to strengthen your interview and also give you a lot of courage when you know something about the person you're going to meet. Then find out the kind of interview you're going in for. If it's a phone interview or a video interview, if it's virtual, if you have to go into the office, ask all those questions. It's very, very important for you to know all that, because if it's a virtual interview and you have to be on camera and you show up there and you don't turn on your camera, that is enough to disqualify you. So ask all the right questions and prepare accordingly before you go to this interview. And all this is just preparing you for success, okay? So I'll pause here for.
Thank you. All right. So, and Annie, do you mind sharing? I've lost my slides.
Okay, let me share.
Thank you. All right. So, in continuation to that conversation around knowing the organization, even knowing yourself, right? You should be able to communicate a value, communicate who you are, what you stand for, why you are here. All the information Annie has shared will lead you into being able to create a value proposition. Now, if we take a look at this slides right in front of you, right? What comes to mind when you look at the slides? First thing that drops in your head.
For me, these are brands. These are very popular brands, and these are their logos that, you know, kind of stand out for them, those organizations. All these organizations have their uniqueness.
Right. I'm glad you didn't just say logos. I'm glad you said brand first, because it's like the logo is there, but there's a statement, or there's something about them, the uniqueness around them that has created a brand, a name for themselves. I see Florence say great brands. Yes, not mediocre, right? These are brands that when you see the name or the word, you think of Coca-Cola. If you're a soda person like me that likes Coke, you're like, oh my God, I need a Coke right now. It gives you a feeling. Think about Google. How can we really survive right now without it? Like, it's part of our daily lives. So these are things that we touch, we feel, right? And we can connect to their brand. In the same way, if you go to the next slide, you would see the definition of your value proposition. Everyone here, you and I have a value we give, right? We give, there are things that we do, that we love doing, we're passionate about, that can be crafted into a proposition or a statement, right? So a value proposition is what you offer to customers, right? If you see yourself as a product or as a brand, right? You should be able to craft out what you offer to customers, how you deliver that offer, and why you should be chosen amongst the others. That value proposition is what makes you unique. It's your brand. Is why you stand out. The way I stand out will be different from the way you stand out. You may have leadership skills. I may have the same leadership skills, but the way we deliver it or the way we offer it is different, and that makes us unique. We have the same skills, right? But we deliver it differently, which is what makes us different in our brands and our styles, makes us unique, right? So your value proposition is more than just your skill, saying, oh, I am a great speaker, right? Or saying, I am a servant leader, right? It is more than that. It is how you do it. It is the uniqueness you bring to that skill. So if you have a skill, or we have some people, well, most of us in this space, in the IT space, we've come from different backgrounds, right? I'm a lawyer, into business, into IT, yeah, but in my lawyering experience, I brought in some transferable skills that I've used to gain some presence in the IT space. None of our experiences, no matter where we come from, is invaluable. Now, the transferable skills that you should be looking at is the things that you have excelled at before. So you look back, reflect and say, okay, what did I really do well? That's one circle, right? Think back again and say, out of the things I did well, what did I love? When you put that together, there is an intersection in between that is like the golden circle. That's the sweet spot that you can call your transferable skill. So if in the past, I excelled at training. Training was what I excelled at, right? And I loved maybe people, right? And I really loved training. Then I will use training as a transferable skill into my future. If you're a hospitable person, you excel at receiving people and making them feel comfortable, right? Think about what you love doing. Maybe you love cooking too, or maybe you love photography. So if you love photography and you're hospitable, you can carry that into your current organization. I've seen people who are agile coaches, scrum masters, and they bring their media skills into the space, into the office space, and people really appreciate them. One of those people I would say is Divine, right? Divine is a media person. His former life was media, but in his current organization, he brings media as part of his value proposition. Kayode, do you mind muting if you're not speaking? Thank you. Right? So think about that. Now, your resume is your first attempt at communicating your value. Your resume should be able to speak your value for you. Your resume is your first your first meet with an interviewer or a recruiter. So you want to create that space. It's like a walking version of you. It's a paper version of you. So you need to represent that clearly. Your value proposition is what people say about you behind closed doors. The moment you leave a room, what do people think about you? How did you leave them feeling, right? That is your value proposition. And the way to know that is to go back and ask people for feedback. Hey, what do you really think about my value? What do I bring naturally, right? You put that together, that creates the value that you bring. All you have to do now is craft it together professionally. Are we together? Thumbs up. Hey, no, yes. I want to know.
Yeah, we are together.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to just share with you some examples of ways you can communicate, just little paragraphs of how you can communicate your value statement, right? Whether in interviews or in your resumes, right? So I tell people, show, don't tell. People say show and tell, but this is show, don't tell. When you're telling, you're just saying, this is what I do. I am a creative. I know you're a creative, but that's very cliche to me. I need to know you deeper. I need to give you more, I need more detail about how you've been creative. So when you're showing it, you are painting a picture in the mind of the listener and trying to take them on a journey of what you did as a creative. So instead of telling and saying I'm a creative, you show by saying, as a creative, I have supported product teams to establish a product vision and strategy that created alignment and excitement in the organization, which resulted in teams' high performance, right? You have painted a picture of yourself to me, someone that's able to organize, establish strategies, processes, and organize people. Then I want to hear more as an interviewer. You have piqued my interest. So when you show people, you look at this picture, you are piquing their interest and they become more intrigued at what you're saying, right? So please tell a story about yourself. Don't just give a cliche short sentence. I am this. That's very popular. Or you can say, instead of saying, I facilitate Scrum events, That is 15% of the job of a Scrum Master, right? Now, you say this by saying, you rephrase it by, you could say, I not only facilitate effective Scrum events, I facilitate objective and key results workshops that help the organization identify relevant objectives as well as measure and track what matters. If you tell me this in an interview, I would be like, okay, I want to hear more, right? So I hope you guys get the idea of what I'm saying when you craft your value proposition, whether you're making the statements verbally or in writing. Any questions? Okay, no questions. So here's what I'm going to tell you to start doing. Consider yourself as a product. If you consider yourself as a product, right, there are certain things that you will have to, that you will start achieving, right? You set a goal for yourself. Like Annie mentioned, what do you want to achieve? Set that goal. That's where it starts. Then if you want to be perceived as a person that creates a particular value, you want to be perceived as someone who's supportive, who helps people, or who is a servant leader, right? You have to be able to show that as a perception. Now, perception is seen in different places. It could be seen in your social media posts. It could be seen wherever you go. Do you really represent that person? So your LinkedIn matters, your Instagram matters. How you present yourself is how you're going to be addressed, right? So you also want to get discovered. Get discovered. Do a name research about yourself, right? Do a name research. Google your name and see what comes up about you. If you Google your name and you find yourself in Ajegule doing something on the road, or Google yourself and you find yourself in a club, you know, all those, that is a perception that you may want to start saying, okay, I want to look more of as a professional.
I would like to add something to that, Chichi. Also, be very careful the kind of things you like on LinkedIn, on YouTube, because when you Google your name, it comes up. You know, recruiters say that a lot. So be very careful of that. And that gives you a perception about yourself, about you to them.
Thanks for adding that, Annie. So Google your name and find out what comes up about you, and see how you can start reframing that to show your value, right, as a product, as a person. Now you also want to network. You want to interact with other influencers in your space. You want to network with people. You want to reach out to people and give recommendations. Give recommendations freely. When I'm asked for recommendation, I do my whole heart because I know this may help somebody, right? So give recommendations, interact with influencers, interact with people, post, like, repost people's comments, people's posts. That will also give you some what's the word? What's that called? Awareness. Give some awareness to your visibility. Thank you. All right. And I'm going to pass the ball to Florence. If there are no questions, are there any questions?
So we'll be encouraging them to put their questions in the chat, okay, so that we can have the Q&A at the end. All right, thank you so much, Coach Anne and Coach Chichi. So we have learned that preparing ahead for our interview and knowing the value we bring to the table will definitely help us excel at our interviews, right? Your resume showcases your skills, your experiences, your certifications, and all these things got you shortlisted. Now, what are some other things that can help you stand out? me present. So besides these things you've already learned, what are some other things that can help you stand out? The first thing that can help you stand out are books. A possible question at your interview could be, tell me a book you have recently read. What are some key things that you got out of those books? And you have on the screen some books that you could take note of, do a screenshot, and look out for these books. In the books, what do you agree with? What do you disagree with? And what are some things from these books, from the key learnings that you might try out? These things piques the interest of your interviewer. Blogs. Many interviewers love to know what recent thing is it that you are using to basically add value to your mind, because some of these experiences are things you're going to be able to bring to the team that they were trying to recruit you to join. By sharing the most recent blog that you've either written or you've been following, and being able to showcase the Agile experience you're picking out of it, you're also showing the broad spectrum of the ways you learn and the ways you also share learning. Meetups. Many interviewers are interested in seeing how vast your community is. Are you participating in meetups? Are you even being invited to speak at meetups? What is it that you're doing? Because these are places where ideas are fertilized. These are places where you're able to have community of practice besides the ones that you have, like where you currently work, as you're trying to come into their place. So which meetups have you been attending? This is one example of something that you could talk about. Oh, every single month, I take part in an event where for an hour, 30 minutes, we get to learn the most recent things in Agile and how to improve in our skills. Your application of Agile principles. In the video we watched at the beginning of our event, you were watching an example of the world's worst interview. Though it wasn't an Agile interview, she was asked to give an example of something she has actually done. You know, like Chichi said, show and not just tell. And she could not even showcase an example of a real lifetime of when she did what it is they're trying to hire her for. So really take time out. The goal, mute yourself, please. Really take time out to get your stories of all the things you've been doing, the results you've been bringing, and value they're going to bring to the table, and have it articulated so that when the time comes to showcase the things you've been doing and not just theory, you'll be able to do it. I talked about blogs, but you also have amazing podcasts out there that help to build your skills, your experiences. And some of these things have not happened to you yet, but by listening to blogs by experienced mentors, practitioners, you're able to take learnings that you can replicate on your team to bring value, to resolve problems, to help your team be more efficient in performance. So which podcast could you talk about at an interview? Newsletters. Are you subscribed to newsletters that are concerning your Agile practice? It's not all theoretical. And if you mention, please, can you mute the people that are? Which YouTube videos or YouTube channels that are propagating best practice for Agile are you following? And which examples would you be able to give if you were asked to do that? These are things that other interviewees will not think about. So these are things that can help you really stand out at your interview. And then what are your inspirations? Can you tell your interviewer about things that really inspire you, that want to make you be in this field, that want to make you a better person, that wants to and help you make your team even perform even better? Who in the Agile environment, in the industry, would you say is your mentor or someone you look up to, that you're following their progress, you've read their books, you've listened to their topics at conferences? Which conferences have you been attending? You know, what is it about the style of your mentor or the person that you're looking up to that you're able to bring to your team? And then what are your aspirations? You go into an interview and they ask you, so where do you see yourself in the next 6 months? Where do you see yourself in the next 12 months, in the next 3 years? And you scratch your head because you never thought about it. It's time for you to actually get yourself ready to articulate what your short-term goals are and what your long-term goals are. In particular, your goals with regards to your Agile or your area of expertise, because that question comes up. And the way you respond would show whether or not you're someone that they see that fits into their culture or to their aspirations. Mentorship. Do you have a mentor? And if not, why not? What do you want to learn from your mentor? Which specific areas? Do you have a goal of what you're going to achieve in your mentoring journey with your mentor? And do you have a plan for getting to the finish line? These are things that if you are really well set up, they're interview topics that if they don't even ask you the question and you have this really well thought through, you could basically take over the interview. And finally, you go into an interview and they ask you, tell me about a time that you had failure. Would you be ready to share and then articulate it in a way that is positive towards you, because you're able to articulate what you did to turn that failure around? You can demonstrate your vulnerability, your resilience, and how you're able to bounce back, and particularly how you were able to help your team if your team too was going through challenges. What would your story be if you were asked to talk about failure? I hand over back to Coach Annie.
Okay, so before we jump right into talking about after your interview, any question? Cool, and I would like to add something to what she said. One of the good things with this meetups, podcasts. Okay, yes, Coach Lola.
I have a question.
Yes.
So are you able to, if they ask you, tell me about yourself or your journey, are you able to just also, instead of talking about it, present like a one PowerPoint page to show your journey?
Yes.
Making you stand out.
Yes. And I've also heard that you can also even do like a mural, like a mural board of everything, your journey, your companies you've worked, your skills you've acquired over the years, as a communities you belong to, as in just do a board and walk them through it. It's also something that wows interviewers.
I did that and
Thank
it was, so it really works.
And you also need to know that going to meetups listening to podcasts, meeting people, hearing about them, especially for those that don't have experience in that field. When you hear about other people's experience, it really helps you because it opens up your mind. You're learning from them, and it's going to take you to another step. So most of the meetups out there, especially if you go into Eventbrite, they are all free. Even what we do here monthly, they are, you can also count that as where you come to learn things. So the more you are doing all this, you are strengthening yourself. And when you go for interview, that confidence is going to be there for you because you have heard a lot about what other people are going. They are sharing their experience with you. You're learning new things. You're using their experience to also shape your own responses when you go for interview. So it's very, very important for you to put yourself out there. This is not a journey that you can do alone. Networking helps a lot. It gives you that visibility because I've gone to interviews several times and they ask me about who are your mentors? What kind of books are you reading? And when you mention some of the veterans in the field, like our mentor here, Bob Galen, there was a time I went for interview and I said, yes, I have this Bob Galen's book that I just finished reading and Bob Galen is my mentor. And that was it for this person because the person practically follows Bob Galen on LinkedIn, like detail to detail. So imagine me going there and I'm saying, this person is my mentor. I read his book. He's helping me as well. He's pouring into me. And imagine me going there and saying this. So there are so many people out there and they are all on LinkedIn. If you go on LinkedIn, you can follow all of them. You don't have to even have one-on-one sections with them. It can just be something that you're doing, reading their books, reading their articles, subscribing to their pages. Some of them do it monthly, some do it weekly. Just keep following all their posts. It's going to really help you. Okay, Lola, you have a question?
Oh, no, I think I didn't put my hands down. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, okay, cool. So I'm going to share my screen now and just go on with after the interview. So you've done all these things that we just heard, right? And now you've gone for this interview. You've passed through the process. Remember when you are also there, while they are asking you those questions, you have to ask them questions to know if they're the right fit for you. It's not about them alone. As they want you to be the right fit for them, they also want to be sure that you want them to be the right fit for you. So you have to ask yourself, this company, are they the right fit for me as well? Consider everything that you've learned about the position. Is this something that resonates with you? Is this something you can do in terms of work-life balance? Is this the kind of culture you want to work in? Because you have to also be you have to interview them to know more about them as well. And if it's the right fit for you, then you move on. Always send a thank you note within 24 hours of your interview. Remember to tell them thank you because it's very good. It helps them to know that you're really passionate about the job and not just any random person looking for a job. Follow up professionally only once if you don't hear from them. So after they tell you, well, I'll get back to you in 3 days time and you don't hear from them, just follow up. You can call or email the HR to know about it. And also remember that if it's the first round, you may be called for the second or the third round, depending on how many rounds. And a good thing with interview is it's a learning process. So you learn from your interview. How did you do? Rate yourself so that if you have to go back again, you are getting better. After your first interview, your second one should be better than the first one because they take note of all the questions they asked you. The ones that you feel like you didn't do very well, this is the time for you to improve on it. Go and improve yourself. Ask people around you. Let them listen to your interview and give you feedback. Or you can even try to find solutions to some of those questions. If they ask you something around what kind of metrics do you use with your team? And maybe in the company, the only metric you use is velocity, and this team wants you to do more than that, then you go out there to find out what other kind of metrics do other people do, because different organizations do different things. And then this company may not want you because they want someone that is more vast in other metrics. So you want to just use this time to improve your answers for the next interview. And remember, you get better with time. It gets to a point where you just go for one interview and you nail it, because now you've learned and you failed forward, and you are now very successful in answering all the questions that comes your way, as well as also prepare all the questions that you want to also ask them. Okay, any question?
Ola has a hand up.
Again, maybe I'm too slow with this. Oh, sorry. Let me lower it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. So I think there was a question in chat. So Annie, can you type the name here? What name did you call? It looks like you called.
What's the name? Is it Bob Galen? Can you mute yourself? I'm not sure. Bob Galen is one of our mentors here, and his book, Extraordinary Badass, The Extraordinary Badass Coaching or something, I can't remember. That's the name of the book that I was talking about. And that's a very, very good book as well for Agile coaches. I recommend that for all of you. So any question? So we have to pause here before we move to the next thing.
There's another question in the chat. Can you share more light on what you put together about yourself in Mural?
Okay,
so
yes.
Yeah. Okay, have you go on? Okay. So like a vision board, I used Miro, but you can use Miro, you can use Mural. I put myself at the center and then had visualization that showed things about my experiences, things that had to do with even like I had something that has to do with like my personal things I do, like my volunteering and things that I knew would be of connection. For you can create a different one for the different organization you're going to interview for. The current place I work, and I've been there for a year and almost and a half now. And because I knew that they were all about connection and lifestyle, I also looked for things that had to do with me, that had to do with that. And I also put it, so it was very visual, and I just talked through it.
Yeah. First, I want to piggyback on that because that actually got me a job, and I think I shared it with Annie. I can't remember who I shared it with. I did it one time and it worked. Just put yourself, and it helps you not to forget, not forget essential parts of your value, right? What you've done before. You can throw in some certifications that will appeal to them, and they're seeing the visual, they're seeing it. So you're not really talking much. You're just walking them through the board, and you're exciting them, and they're going to be like, oh, what's that about? Right? So it's better when you show and not just tell.
So our guest speaker will be joining us in 15 minutes. Before she joins us, and she's really awesome, she's coming here to tell us about what HR really look out for. Okay, so before she joins us, both three of us now, we're going to share our interview experience. So Chichi, can you share with us what has your journey been with interviewing, like when you started, especially when you started interviewing as a Scrum Master to where you are now? What are all those things that really helped to shape you? Those things that you feel you did that made you to just go in for one and you nailed it?
Yeah. So after I, got, the wind about Agile and, moving from being a project coordinator, and I actually worked in logistics. So I sat for the class. First of all, it was the passion first that drew me. You cannot do it without being passionate about it, right? It's going to be harder to do without being passionate. Everyone says Scrum is easy, Agile is easy. Yes, the book is easy, but when you get to the workplace, it's not as easy, right? So I went in there with that understanding of Agile. So my first interviews were more so, oh, I know the concepts. I was using concepts to answer the questions, right? But I took a step back and I realized that this is more than just having the knowledge. It's more so creating stories. So I worked as a group. It was myself, Annie, and another person. We worked together as a group, a small group, to rub minds. We will stay in a meeting and all we're doing is dissecting a daily stand-up. And as we're dissecting a daily stand-up, we're creating stories, possible stories around stand-ups, right? We'll test the knowledge in with other coaches and other mentors that we had. And then we'll also test our knowledge in interviews, right? So creating that group of people that you can be accountable for and to each other, that helped. And also notes. What about makes you work? So for example, I do have this. I keep this I take notes, right? So you also want to be able to take notes of things you want to remember. I didn't have a board back then. As I started, let me remove this. Let me remove
your blood background, and also remember to also share your worst experience with us and what you did better after that worst experience.
Yeah. So I had this here. I had it on my wall, and I'll just take anything I want to remember. I'll be doing something and just come to the wall and just stand in front of it and say something or remember something, right? And say it like I was in an interview. I would, and even when I did this, honestly, I felt like I knew it. There was an interview I went for. I said, if they don't take me, man, they don't know anything. But I went and I was disappointed. They didn't take me. But guess what? You move on, right? One of my worst interviews was when I put in my resume that I think I put a 20% increase in something. And this guy schooled me and said, what does 20% increase mean? I tried to explain, customer satisfaction. We did surveys and all of that, and it increased. He said, what was the number before then? How did I measure the increase? Like right now, right? Being where I am today, I would answer it better. I can tell them the cost of the project that was worked on, that I worked on, $1 million and all of that. And I can tell them when we started, there were a lot of defects in the system that cost a loss of $500,000 or $500, and then by the time we reduce the defect through the cycles, we observed that there was there was loss. Well, there was a lot more revenue earned by having increased quality in the system, right? Right now I can defend it, but then the guy sat me and schooled me, right? But then I didn't give up. I went on. So there will be worse interviews. There will be interviews where you feel like, man, I nailed it. There'll be interviews where you get to the final stages and then they so it's a fun ride, but you will get there.
So what I'd like to add to this is, I think you got better with time when you realized that you put something like 20% on your resume and you got to the interview and then the interviewer called it out for you. So a good practice will be study your resume before you always go in. If you put anything on your resume, always remember that they will ask you about it. So you put any number, those data, it's always very attractive to your interviewers and they'll want to know, okay, how did you get this 70%? How did you get this 90%? Always have a story that you can use to back it up, and that will help you a lot. So don't do that practice of going in there without studying your resume. Always go through it because your resume has passed through a process. Now it's your responsibility to defend what you have put in your resume. Okay, that was really good.
And the data is good. Putting that data there is good, and showing the results of that data, just giving more context to it is good. or just be ready to answer
Define
it.
it.
Yeah, defend it. That's right.
Yeah. So can we hear from you, Coach Florence?
Yeah. I want to say that one other time that I remember very well of an interview, basically flipping over, and it was almost like I was now in charge of the interview. This was like either the second or third stage. So, you know, when they give you like a technical assignment to go do, right? But rather than just coming back with answers, I actually created a board for it. And I had asked whether I'll be able to share my screen and do all that. So it was very much a show rather than just telling, you know. So it's the more you are able to practicalize and show things about what you're trying to say you can do for them, the better. You know, so, and if someone's asking you, oh, tell me about a time that you had to resolve this or that, they're not just asking, they're looking for, yeah, maybe the worst thing that you had to, you know, resolve for the team or teams that you work with, but they want to see more what was that big result and how is that different, or how was it different? Now they're going to be asking the same question to the other interviewees, right? But how can your own answer now stick in their minds? The more visual you are, the more they remember your story. So that I feel is very important. Another thing I think we haven't mentioned today is, so you finish an interview and you get that dreaded email, oh, we'll be moving on with somebody else. Yeah. How many times have we taken time out, either immediately after the interview or even when that has happened, to now reach out and ask, what could I have done better? Or what is it that I could have brought to the table? 50% of the time, the recruiter or the people that interviewed you would, because you've reached out, will be willing to give you 2-3 bullet points of things you could have done better. And sometimes it might just not be anything that you did wrong. It was just not the time, or there might just not be the cultural fit with the organization. So you don't have to beat yourself up every single time you get that dreaded email. The important thing is get that feedback and then put it into improving the next one. And Chichi said, practice makes perfect. She has her board where when she remembers something or something happens, she puts it there. And it's also very important that whenever any milestone happens, that we are updating our resume, we're updating our LinkedIn. And of course, in doing that, you're also getting ready to update the stories for the next, that your stories of success, your stories of your journey for your next interview.
Yeah, so which of your interview was the worst one, and what made it really bad? What did you learn from it that, you know, you got better with time? And
yeah,
you know that, yes,
I remember I interviewed for Nike. Coach Lola Minta is here. I remember after that I did also speak to her. When I interviewed for Nike, and for every level of the interview, there are like 3 panelists interviewing you and throwing questions. The question was, out of all the Scrum events, which one is the most important one? Like, you know, and that most important one could be the review. It could be so I believe that it's the confidence level in responding that was the main crux. Because truly, it could be sprint planning. It could be sprint review. So after that, it was all about making sure I'm more confident in the way I'm responding, because there's no right or wrong answer.
Exactly.
It might be how you plan and the things you want to work on during that sprint that's the most important events, for Scrum event. All the Scrum events are important. Retro is important because if the feel in the team is not as it should be, they won't be able to perform even at the sprint planning or going into the sprint and have nothing to have as an increment at sprint review, right? So really, there's no is it the daily stand-up that is not important? You know, so for a long time I was like really beating myself up for, because Nike was so important to me. Like it was such an important interview.
Yeah. So let me share mine. For me, the worst interview that I have been to was one that's, that's when I started interviewing the first time. The first thing I would say is I didn't have that energy, and interviewers want to see that energy. So you come in and then you're just very quiet. You're expecting them to talk. My interviews were not conversational. I'll just wait for them to ask me questions and then I'll be giving yes or no. They'll ask me, do you know what velocity means? I'll say yes, and then I'll keep quiet. The next thing they'll ask me is, what do you understand? Have you used Jira before? I'll say yes. Just be saying yes, no, and then I'll be keeping quiet. And when I get that rejection, I'll start feeling bad. And I had to look at myself in the mirror and I was like, how am I presenting myself? So I started asking questions and I found out that there's something these interviewers are looking for. They don't want to come into an interview and be hearing yes or no. They want you to say yes or no and then back it up, use the SMART format, like answer them in the STAR format, use that STAR format to answer. If they ask you, what do you know? Have you used the metric called velocity before? Then you say, yes, I've used that metric called velocity before. And a good example is in my current position where I use it to track how my team is doing. And then you start saying how you use it, like give them example. You don't have to even call the name of the organization, but tell them how you used it, when you used it, and if it's something that you'll have to learn from something, if it's a no, tell them why it's a no. Make it very, very conversational. And you can also ask them back, like if they ask you, what kind of tools do you use? Don't just say Jira, ask them back, what kind of tools do you use in your organization? So turn it to conversation. They love it when it's conversational. They want to see that energy because it gives them the feel that you're very confident about what you're saying and you're not just very nervous or you don't know anything. Sometimes you may know the right things, but it's stuck in your head because you're very, very nervous and you don't even know how to express it. So, but when you know a lot about the people that you're coming to meet, it reduces that confidence, reduces that nervousness a lot and give you a lot of confidence. If you go on LinkedIn and you know, okay, this person I'm going to interview with is a hiring manager and this is their role, this is what they have done, you know a little bit about them, you take that information and go in there, you can converse with them with that information. You can start having conversations with them. Oh, where are you based? What is it like where you are right now? What is it like in your organization? Can you tell me a little about your culture in your organization? I went online and I see this review about some people saying you guys are really great, but I'd like to hear it from you. Now you're giving that person the person now is beginning to see you more like somebody that is really passionate about coming in there to work with them and not just anybody that wants to be interviewed to just get a job. So you want to show that energy, you want to show that passion. And that's one of the things I learned after interviewing, several times. I got to say that, yes, I have to make my interview very conversational. I have to study my resume. Every little detail on my resume, I must know it. Even when I go in there and they ask me things, I should be able to say things from my resume. And a good way to also nail your interview is answer your questions using their job description. Look at their job description and use it to answer them because they want to know, they want to hear it from you that you can do this thing. So if you see facilitation on the job description and you say, yes, I facilitate, give them where you have done it before. And even if they don't even say facilitation, like the way it's written on the job description, you can, when you're giving your responses, weave in all those things that you have seen in the job description in your responses, because they want to know that you're a good fit and you can do it. No company wants to hire anybody that will come in and they hold your hands and train you. They want you to come in and get the ball running and just be doing your thing, you know. So
Dr. Anne,
yes.
I just want to quickly add something to our conversation. Thank you for today. And it's been, I think it's been very intense and I've really had fun. But, you know, based on what yourself, SB and also Chichi has said, you know, it's possible for you to do everything right and yet not get the job. But the point is you want to still play your own parts. All those I coach, I always tell them this, that try not to add emotions to any interview. A great man, after climbing a mountain, thinks of the next mountain to climb. But a man without vision, after climbing the mountain, sits down and enjoys the view. And you now sit down and you now go, oh, I was that interview was fantastic. They'll call me back. Call me back. And they don't. Don't give yourself high blood pressure. Try. It's difficult, but it is possible. I always say, as soon as you're done with an interview, dust it, forget about it, think of the next one. Let's move on. Otherwise, we are just going to really have heartache. I know there's a question I posted in the chat. I don't know if you guys could respond to it. I'll be more than happy. I've asked that question several times. I don't know if that resonates with some people here as well.
Oh, okay. So the mirror board, it's in a different mirror board that I have lost for now, but I can create something and share. Like it's really simple to create. But Divine asked a question. Please, can someone respond to what you think about the cover letter? I always feel it's an additional punishment. Or what is your take? Okay, so I can try that, right? I haven't used the cover letter in the IT space, right? And honestly, I don't think it has had any impact, right? The only time I'll use a cover letter, and a cover letter actually carries your value proposition, right? Your value statement as well. You can write it there clearly. But except as I apply for a job, I see that I can't move forward without a cover letter, then I would submit it. But what I've heard people say, and I want to confirm that, I don't know if Masha is here yet. What I've heard people say is if you apply for a job and you add your cover letter, you are more attractive to the recruiters. They see you as more serious.
That's true.
Right. So maybe I'm not that serious, but I'll try that sometime. Divine. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you for your response. I wish Marshall was here too to add more light to that.
Yeah, but I don't know when you write yours, Divine. So when you do, let me know.
The truth is, looking for a job is a job, and getting cover letter to a job, I'm like, no, don't do this to me.
So an easy way to write a cover letter, just use the job description to write a story. Pick some of the bullet points and just write the story, and that's it. So it's usually a one-page thing, and it does not have to be too much. You can just do 2 or 3 paragraphs, and that's it. Okay. So we're going to throw open to others. If you can unmute yourself while we're waiting for our guest speaker. Can you all tell us, like, who wants to share their interview experience, just 1-2 minutes with us? What have you experienced? How did you grow through it? And if you can share with others, okay, you can just raise up your hand and we'll call you out. Our guest speaker will be here in a few minutes. We have some really cool people here, but I don't want to call their names.
Doctor, I think Masha is here now.
Oh, awesome, cool. So we have Masha here. Masha is here, right?
I just got a message from her that she's on the call now. And
Okay.
she's here.
Oh, cool. Good to have you, Masha. So let me do like a quick introduction. and then you can jump on, okay? So we all have Marsha here, and this is the cool slide about Marsha. So she's our special guest. She's an organizational leader, an advisor, a coach, and a mentor, in senior strategic technology and diversity leader. She has over 15 years of successful diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging leadership experience. So in summary, she's our HR person, and she's here to tell us the tips, everything that all HR managers are looking out for when you come in front of them for an interview. What are those things? So Marsha, over to you. We can't hear you, you're on mute.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I apologize to you. I'm actually stuck in an airport. Traffic jams and weather conditions in Washington, D.C. have me delayed, so I'm in a corridor. So I apologize, but I did want to be a part of this conversation and share with you as much as I can to help you be prepared for your overall experiences and leadership and preparing for the next level in your career. One of the things that someone sent a message and I missed it. Was that for me?
No, just go on. Once you're done, we'll have a Q&A section that you also take. So just go on.
Okay, so I wanted to just share with you as much as I possibly could about just interviewing and preparing for being able to tell your story. And one of the things that we are looking for, and any manager or any leader that is interviewing you is looking for a story. They want to understand your why. They want to understand what it is about you that sets you apart from anyone else. And having a story behind your career, being able to say, you know, hey, I have 15 years of experience, but my 15 years of experience is full of ups and downs, goods, bads, that have helped me to evolve into my actual role and help me to learn. And I now understand how to take, you know, constructive criticism. I know how to give feedback. I know how to ask qualifying questions. I know how to deal with difficult situations. And that's the thing that sets you apart from any individual. And that's the thing I think that we want to talk about today. Your resume is a story, but being able to articulate it and not just have it on paper is what's going to be important as well. So I know that there were some questions that individuals wanted to ask me, and I apologize because the airport has me in a compromising position and I can't, you know, get to my notes and hold my phone. So if I can ask you to ask me some questions, I will be happy to do that. And I apologize, and I'll come back and join you guys when I'm in a better situation. I'm in the airport. I know you guys can hear everything in the background, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, so do you all have any questions for Marsha while she's here? You can unmute yourselves or raise up your hands and then we'll call you. She only has a few minutes with us because her flight was delayed and she can't be here for too long.
And I can definitely come back and answer and you know, really facilitate a conversation with you and share some of the wisdom and tips that I would recommend. I would encourage you, I don't know, I saw something pop up, but it went away. But I also would encourage you as you are growing in your career, find yourself a mentor and find yourself a sponsor, someone that you believe in, someone that you believe will advocate for you when you cannot be in rooms, when there's conversations that are going to be had. You know, talk to and assert yourself to ask someone to be your mentor if you don't actually have one. Those are the things that are going to help you to grow because they're going to give you feedback that, you know, perhaps you wouldn't necessarily hear. And it's going to make a difference in your career because you will grow. I'm not sure if I lost you.
Okay. Marsha, I really wanted to ask a question if the panelists don't mind. Okay. Before you came, I asked a question about the cover letter And I'm like, from the HR perspective, what's your opinion about the cover letter when organization ask us to submit the resume with a cover letter? I see that as punishment. I've not really been doing it, but what would be your candid opinion about that? That's one. Then second thing, no, three questions. The second question is this. There was a time you mentioned the 2 minutes conversation that maybe you ask question and you should respond in 2 minutes. Would it be fine if you throw more light to it? Then the third thing is, when I get my job, is it possible for me to renegotiate my salary? How do I go about that?
Oh, so Divine, you have 3 questions.
I can answer all of them because it's Divine.
Okay. So after this one, we had Dalaya's hand up, so we'll take that after you answer Divine's question.
Certainly. So the first question in regards to your cover letter, what I would say to you is absolutely, your cover letter is your introduction. It tells you, it gives you a chance to talk about things that your resume, you're really kind of streamlining your resume, but your cover letter gives you some creative liberty to share things about yourself, talk about some of your hopes and your dreams and your aspirations. You know, this job is, you know, a stair step to where it is that I actually want to go. You can talk about some of your outside interests. You can really personalize your cover letter to humanize you and separate you from your counterparts that are also applying for the job. So I would encourage you, and it doesn't have to be long, but you really have some creative liberty in your cover letter. So I absolutely would encourage you to do so. And they're hoping, and some people use it as a disqualifier when you are submitting your resume and you don't necessarily follow the instructions. So your resume, and they ask you for a resume and a cover letter, and then you don't submit it, then they're like, oh, great, now we can, you know, separate you because you didn't follow the instructions. You don't have a cover letter. So that's one. The elevator speech, or the 2-minute message about yourself. So when you are on the elevator riding up, and I'll use this as an example. If you're on the elevator and you're riding up and you're sitting with you're on the elevator with a senior level person, they say, hey, tell me about yourself. That's your opportunity, because they're interviewing you whether you know it or not. They're learning about you, and they're giving you an opportunity to tell them in 2 minutes before you get to the next floor who you are, what you want to do. So you need to prepare for that messaging, and it's important to have an elevator speech. Hey, good afternoon, I'm Marcia Smith. That's great. But, you know, hey, John, great, just came back from California. You know, I absolutely love speaking on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was a great opportunity for me to do so with the National Black MBA Association. And now he knows something about you that he may or may not have ever known. So those are the things that you want to prepare for, because you never get another chance to make a first impression. Once you do it, it's over. And they will remember that about you forever. And Devon, you asked me another question, and I apologize. What was the third?
So the third one is, can he renegotiate salary after getting an offer?
Oh, absolutely. So when you're having a conversation with human resources or the recruiter, and they ask you what salary are you looking for, because they can't ask you how much you make. So what I would say to you is, I would turn that around and just ask them what is the window of opportunity for salary, and then they should tell you, well, the range of salary is, you know, 150 to 175. And you can at that point say, great, my salary request is 160 or 170. So that's really aligned to where I want to go. I would ask you to answer that question with a question, and they really should be giving you ranges. And I would also encourage you to know your number. So if your goal is, you know, you're making 150 now and you want to make 165, then 165 is the number. So you ask for 170, and they're they're going to negotiate, you toggle back and forth, and you're going to get closer to your number. Another thing that I would say is that you would also say, well, 175,000 is my negotiable rate. How close can we get to that? And then give them an opportunity to tell you that they can't make that number. But I would ask the question, how close can we get to whatever your number is? And ensure that you know your number, know your worth, get out, do your homework. What is the market bearing? What are the salary ranges? What are and not everything is going to be monetary. Maybe you say, okay, well, they give you 3 weeks of vacation in lieu of, the extra $20,000, I would like to negotiate 2 additional weeks of vacation, or I like to negotiate work from home 3 days a week, or you negotiate what it is that is going to make this job optimal for you. All they can do is say no, but if you never ask, it absolutely will be no. So I would encourage you to know what it is that you want. Know that money is not always the end all be all, meaning there could potentially be more out there, negotiating vacation days, additional time off, working from home. There are lots of other things, tuition reimbursement. There's so many other opportunities for you to advance and improve your life, but you have to ask.
Oh, thank you, Masha. So we will take one more question from Dalayer. Dalayer, you had your hand up. What's your question?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I have a question about an interview that I did this week. So initially, at the third stage of this interview, and I'm interviewing with someone from the company. What happened was last week I had an interview and I was very reserved, as the person was saying earlier, in the sense that I would wait until the questions are asked before I answer anything, and I would be very direct with my answers and I wouldn't explain anything. However, I went back and I thought about it. I'm like, okay, guess what? Maybe I need to work on my confidence, and I need to make sure that I study my resume, as my coach taught me. Study every line of your resume, just in case, they ask you something. So I went into this interview, and when I went into this interview, my interview started off by telling me everything about herself, sense of where she studied, journey as a all her, the background of her work. So she's the vice president for the company, as well as a scrum master, or the lead scrum master.
Your voice is
journey, starting own experience. Right. And as she asked me about that, I started, sharing with her, okay, well, I started my journey in Jamaica. I did a BA in business admin. My major was program and project management. I did internship as a project manager while I was studying. I migrated here. I learned about Scrum and, basically explain the whole process. Now, after my interview, she was pleased. I believe she was smiling, and she said, you know what, we're interviewing this week and we will give you an update by next week. I am not sure why it is that I guess my confidence level is not as strong after the interview, because to me, I felt as though, because she led out by telling me every single thing about her own journey, where she studied, where she started, all straight up until the point where she's right now working with this company for the past 2 years. I felt as though I spoke too much in regards to my interview. What's your take on that? If that was the question, and what can I do to improve this moving forward?
And I'm sorry, what was your name one more time?
Her name is
Dahlia.
Okay, so Dahlia, what I would say to you, first of all, is you are enough. And you would not be interviewing if you weren't qualified. They're not going to waste their time interviewing you. So you have to go into the interview knowing that you are enough and you have the skill sets to do the job. But you're more than just that job. And so when you say to me that your confidence, you don't feel confident, you have the ability, and you have to know that, because it's not for them to tell you, oh yes, you are enough and you're a great candidate for this job. You have to go in knowing I'm a great candidate for this job. This is exactly what I've trained for. This is exactly what I plan for. It aligns with my education, it aligns with my career goals. So knowing that you are enough and you have enough to do the job is what I would say to you, first of all. Your resume is profound, I'm sure. I'm sure you're going to be able to, articulate that. But if you don't know that you're qualified, then it's not going to execute well in an interview. Another thing is, you know what you've done. So when you talk about, your jobs, everything that you've done over the last 5, 10, 15 years, every job that you've ever had, tell them what it is that you did, not reading the resume, but bring yourself back to those roles when you were doing them and speak with confidence about what it is that you did. I delivered a $125 million project for XYZ company, and I did that through utilizing Scrum. I used that I was an Agile coach, or whatever your roles and responsibilities were. Talk about that as if you are talking to your friend. Talk with your passion, lead with your experience, but most importantly, know that you would not be at the table having a conversation with any company. I don't care whether it's government or if you're doing private sector, you're not going to be there if you're not qualified. And so you got to sell yourself, but you have to know that you're enough to do the job.
Okay,
Thank you so much, Marsha.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marsha.
You are absolutely welcome, and you're beautiful, and you got to go in knowing that. Just like they're lucky that I decided to interview with them.
Right. I love that.
Okay.
Yeah, they're lucky. They should consider themselves lucky.
Right. So we have a question from Kate.
Sure.
Let's see if we can just
time check.
Okay. Yes. So Kate says, when you work in an interview and find a panel of 8, it can be intimidating. Can one request for panel to be split such that you meet first 4 and then the next 4 in 2 different sections? I was faced with 8 people bombarding me with questions and I was flustered. So just the last question, this will be the last question we're taking.
So what I do when I'm on a panel, and whether you're on an interview or if you are on, or you're face-to-face, when you're introduced, and let's say there's 4 people. So you start from the outward in. So that person is going to introduce themselves and they say John, and the next one is Mary, and the next one is Sally, and the next one is Michael. And you have all of these individuals throwing questions at you. You pace the interview. So whoever spoke to you first, so you would go and you would say, hey, John, so I'll answer your question first, and then I will follow the row. So John, Sally, whomever, and you call them by name and you ask them to repeat their question to you, because you had questions coming from everywhere. Whomever you choose to recognize first, call them by name and then ask them to repeat their question. That slows the pace of the interview down. It gives you back control so that you can gather your thoughts, and then you go to the next person. I'm sorry, Sally, you asked me a question. Can you please repeat that? And give them that person an opportunity. And you take back the control of it. And the intimidation, again, comes from you're trying to convince them that you are enough, when you as an individual should know already, I'm enough. But control the room, control the narrative, control the conversation. And if multiple people are coming at you, you pick the person and you go to their question. I'm sorry, John, you said you're asking me, can you repeat that again? And then that will give you a chance to recalibrate. So it's very intimidating, only if you don't necessarily think it through. If you know that you are on a panel, the first thing that you want to do is make sure wherever the person is positioned, is how you write their names down. So whoever you consider seat number 1, you write their name down and you write it in an order. And you ask them to repeat their names again for you, and you write them down. And then that's how you answer their question. John, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking. That filler gives you a chance to process and think through how you want to respond. I think that's a fantastic question, Sally, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And then you go in and you answer the question. That way, you're giving them just as much respect as they're giving you, because you're repeating their name, you're repeating the question, and you're thanking them for asking you that. And I hope that helps. But to all of you, as you're interviewing and you're preparing, 9 times out of 10, you are overqualified for the job. You have the education, you have the experience, and now you just need to think about, the company has already done their due diligence. They look at your resume and they're just asking you to confirm what it is that you already know about yourself. So walk into the room knowing that you are enough.
Thank you very much for that, Marsha.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
And thank you to every single person that's still on this call. Thank you for your patience. Our event typically ends on time at 7:30 CST. So we want to take this time to apologize, but it was worth it because we got to hear from Marsha Smith. And thank you, Marsha, despite the fact that you're at the airport going through what you're going through, you still turned up.
Oh, absolutely. I would not have missed it for the world. It's my pleasure. And I look forward to supporting you. You guys can feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will be happy to help, and coach and offer any recommendation or support. I believe that, this organization is very, very, powerful, and you have something to give to the world. So don't give up, keep persevering, and remember that you're enough. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Marsha.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Marsha.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
About 2 more minutes. We want to quickly just tell you a little about Agile Disciples, the organization that has brought this amazing event to you. So our website is agiledisciplesusa.com, and please follow us on social media. On social media, we have a YouTube channel. Every single event we upload there. Follow us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Follow us everywhere so that you know when we are doing one thing or the other. Our next monthly event is May 20th, 2023. But just before the May 20th event, where you join us online again, we're gonna have an in-person PI planning session next week, Saturday, in Houston. So if you are in Houston, or you can get to Houston, register and be there. And after the April 29th PI planning that's in person, we have in May, Slaying Your Facilitation Game, and Chichi Afia and myself will be the host. And with that, we'd like to say a big thank you, and I'll stop sharing.
All right, so if you do want to attend if you're in Houston, Dallas, if you do want to attend the event, can we drop a number for them to reach out to here in the chat? Is Ibrahim here or Divine? What number would you want to put there?
I'm dropping a number already.
Okay.
On the chat, you can call the number, send a text message. And for those that will be coming as well, if you are trying to get a job, it's good for you to come with your resume. There'll be some coaches that will look through your resume. If you've been having interviews, well, it will be an opportunity to connect with the coaches one-on-one so that we could see where there is gap and we can help you fill it in. Looking forward to seeing you in Houston if you'll be there. Thank you.
All right. So I think we're gonna hang out for the next 3 minutes to get to 1/4 to the hour. Anyone wants to hang out with us, that's fine. But thanks for coming. We appreciate you.
I just wanted to ask, are we